Okay, everybody, it is Monday, and you know what that means. It means it is time for another installment of ELF Live. It's nice and early Monday morning here on the West Coast of the United States for me. For a lot of you, wherever in the world you are, thank you for joining us on our Monday program. We are live on 4 different platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Alfieri, and I am here, of course, with my lovely co-host, as always, Matt Bressington, with a fresh, new haircut. Pop him on in there. There he is. Look at you. Look at you, Matt. Matt, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I saw the barber today. Prague Lions won, of course. We'll get to it. So I honestly don't think life could be much better for me at the moment. I'm doing good. And I got you left live and all the chat here as well. So I'm feeling nice.
Pretty good weekend for you, Prague Lions fans. What's up, everybody in the chat? We got, of course, Marcus is in the chat. Joseph Ravello, love from Praha, Beach Boy Andre, Jesse Delgado. All you guys, welcome into the show this morning or this evening, depending on where you are. Very good show for you today, okay, on Monday. As always, we're going to go through all the individual games this week. We had a little bit of everything. We had some blowouts. We had some thrillers. We're going to talk about it all. And perhaps we have a special little interview that will drop in the middle of that as well. So stay tuned. But most importantly, you need to stick around for the end of the show because, like we always do, we're going to be voting on the Citizen MVP of the week, and you guys help us decide who is nominated. So as we get into it, our ELF Live show presented by Euronics. Let's jump on into it, Matt, with our individual games, okay? And we're starting off, of course, with, let's call it the Alp Bowl, the Mountain Bowl. The Raiders T-Roll traveling to beautiful Switzerland to play the Helvetic Mercenaries. And this one was a bit interesting, Matt. We had a couple of, let's call it, non-traditional quarterbacks playing quarterback with Adrian Platzkummer, surprise, and then Josiah Norwood came in for the Mercenaries. This was an interesting one. Matt, thoughts on this?
Interesting is a good way to put it. Like you said, not a natural quarterback to be seen. I know that a few people, including my good friend Thomas, had Nkosi Perry in a fantasy football, and it kind of ruined their week a little bit. So that was kind of tough for them. But this was a weird game. It was close, a lot longer than it needed to be for the Raiders, and then they pulled away at the end. But I think a few people in Switzerland were taking the silver linings. They said at least we kept it close for a while before the wheels fell off. But I'm not convinced by Helvetic. I think they're going to struggle this season, and they've got injuries at quarterback. They've got Norwood in, who played admirably as a runner, but as a passer wasn't it, you know.
Really, he was exciting on the ground. He did get it done on the grounds, and the Raiders T-Roll are a team known to get it done on the ground. And Matt, I was so upset with myself with fantasy this week because, I tried to decide which Raiders T-Roll running back do I go with on my fantasy squad. And I picked Bonatti over Hasselvanter, and whoops, that was a bad choice because Bonatti, well, he was basically rested this game, and Hasselvanter went for over 100 yards. Looked great as usual, but man, Matt, I also feel bad for our boy who we love a lot, Milan Spiller, who's just been unable to have the production that he had last year. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think it's a tough position. I think some people will be looking at him for potential e-spots as a receiver. He's clearly extremely talented. He's one of the golden generation of receivers out of Europe at the moment. The first ever, only ever at the moment, European to get 1,000 yards. Did it in his rookie season. But they just haven't been giving him the ball. With the quarterback issues, of course, he's not going to get the ball. So I think maybe he'll be looking elsewhere. I personally, it feels up to me. If I'm agent of Spiller, I'm probably looking at some other potential landing spots next season for him because he is too good to be wasting this talent on an 0-5 team, I believe.
Yeah, it's really sad to see. I mean, especially what we saw from him last year. I mean, he's a very talented young player. Just Love from Praha says, just once, I want to see the Swiss at least win once. They don't feel like they deserve to be down with the Centurions, for example. Do you agree with that, Matt? Do you think that Helvetic does have like more potential there that they're really just not tapping into?
100%. I mean, you look at the guys like the kind of Broncos who are like in a cup final this weekend. They've obviously got Swiss talent in that country, but not all of them are playing for the Mercenaries. Granted, some of them had bad experiences with the team in the past, and they don't want to play for them now. That's ultimately what is closing them off of being a top-level team. Some people have compared them to be like the talent level of Madrid. I disagree. I think they're more like a Vossa Panthers kind of level of team, but they can absolutely, with some good import allocation, be pushing towards playoff spots. Prague were in a playoff spot for like an hour, then in a week. So if they can turn around to 1-11, why can Helvetic not, you know?
I mean, the thing with like 4 minutes left in the third quarter, this was actually a 4-point ball game after the Norwood touchdown. But then the Raiders just kind of turned it on and piled it on and really ran away with it. ELFpedia says having Weed and or Norwood as your quarterback, you play a season as a wide receiver at quarterback, is going to be a long season. I mean, we are seeing that, them just not being able to have that type of offensive production that you need. You need to be able to be a two-dimensional offense, and they really were not able to do that. So Raiders T-Roll, man, kind of roll to another victory, now sitting at 4-2. They finish up this one 44-12, stomping out the Helvetic Mercenaries. All right, Matt, let's move on to a team that's absolutely taking the league by storm. Are we going? Oh, there we go. Okay, good. The Wrocław Panthers playing the Nordic Storm. The Nordic Storm, as we all know, brand new team, and they are now sitting at a pretty 5-0. This is interesting. There was no scores in the first quarter. You thought Panthers were kind of playing them a little bit close there, but then in the end of the first half, I mean, the Storm just scored those 2 touchdowns within 1 minute, and then the whole second half was all Storm. What are your thoughts on this one and the Nordic Storm?
Yeah, I think they're showing at the moment to be the best new Croatian team in the ELF that we've ever seen. I mean, Jadran's experience, I think, came in at the end of that end of that first half, rather. They just look so dominant on all phases of the ball. They've got players that are in MVP discussions, like Jadran. They've got like newcomer of the year with Bolio, and then they've got defensive player of the year with like Max Parkinson. They've got new and they're former all-stars in the defensive backcourt. And this team is just stacked from head to toe. They are the last undefeated team, and it's not unreasonable to say they might go the whole season without taking it out.
I just would love to be able to get like a little bit of insight from this team. I know like a brand new franchise, they're undefeated. Obviously they're clicking. They've got chemistry. I would just love to be able to talk to somebody on that squad to get some of that insight. And you know what, Matt? I'm going to get my wish because we have just that with a surprise interview. The man himself, defensive back of the Nordic Storm, Luke Glenna, is going to be joining us on the show. Throw him in there, Maxie, if you can. Luke?
Currently.
We're waiting for him. I promise you guys, he's here.
He's on the way.
There we go. Luke Glenna, welcome to the program. There we go.
How's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. Can't complain.
I mean, yeah, you can't complain. You're sitting there undefeated right now. Guys in the chat, wherever you're watching, if you have any questions for Luke, put them in there. And if they're good enough, we will pass them on to Luke. Luke, first question for me. I want to rewind back to your guys' Frankfurt game the week before because this was a highly anticipated matchup. Everybody's saying this is really the first test for the Nordic Storm because you guys had some games that maybe could be described as a little bit easier earlier in the season. Then you have the Frankfurt Galaxy. You guys end up stomping them. Okay. There was a lot of rumors floating around that the Frankfurt Galaxy players were actually sick or food poisoned. Did you get this sense at all? Can you talk to me about that game?
I think from the start, since I've been here and even prior to that, just building this team from top down with our management, Coach Shoup, Coach Noble, they've done a great job of just focusing on us, kind of turning out the outside noise that comes with being a first-time program, all of that. So I don't know. We've heard stuff like that about Frankfurt, but we kind of just focus on ourselves, know that we play our game, and I think we had a great week of practice getting prepared. So Saturdays and Sundays are fun for us. I think we put the work in during the week to be prepared to go out and let loose and have fun on Saturdays and Sundays, and I think we did that against Frankfurt.
You guys look like you're having a lot of fun so far. Matt, you got a question for Luke?
You're in a third season in the ELF. You're 25 years old. We're going to start seeing more safeties and DBs and Americans in general come into the league at young age because you were, 23 when you went to Barcelona. You're a veteran at this point, one of the longest serving Americans in the ELF because you've been there for 3 years. Do you think we're going to see more guys transition from university and then straight into the ELF?
I think it's possible. I think with my situation, it was kind of a perfect opportunity with the pandemic happening when I was in college. So I took a fifth season to play football, which had me graduate then in December after the season. So 3-4 months later, I was flying out to Barcelona. So I think that was kind of a perfect combination there. I was ready to go, looking for something new after being in Minnesota the first 22 years of my life. So I think it's definitely a cool opportunity, and more guys should definitely do it. It's just kind of wrapping your mind around the idea that you're going over 23s, so.
Luke, speaking of those Barcelona days, your Spain days, can you talk a little bit about, and we'll talk, of course, about this year, but just rewinding for a second, can you talk a little bit about that time when you moved from Barcelona to Madrid? A lot of Barcelona guys moved over to Madrid, and you guys had a lot of success last season. What went into you deciding to go to Madrid and leave Barcelona? Or did you have the option? Did they want you back, Barcelona?
Yeah, I had a couple options there after that Barcelona season. I was just ready for a new experience. I think after Barcelona, I did what I felt like was everything I could do there. And with kind of the trajectory of that team, I was ready for something new. And I loved playing with all the guys there in Barcelona. So the idea of kind of playing with them again in a new spot with kind of a fresh start in Madrid was an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, you guys had a lot of success. We've got a great question here from the chat from Rising Rhino. What quarterback was the toughest to read and face so far this year? Or even if you want to rewind it back to any of your years in the ELF.
I would honestly say the one that I have on my team right now. I think Jadrian's the best quarterback I've played against over here. Obviously, so lucky to have him on our team, and for our defense to practice against him is so good for us too all week. So I think this year, though, we've played a bunch of good guys. I mean, DJ Irons this past week, he's a great runner of the football. So, there's kind of different skill sets with all of these quarterbacks. You kind of prepare a little bit differently for each of them, for their strengths and their weaknesses. So that's something that's really cool, I think, over here too, is just kind of the versatility of some of the dudes we get to play against every week.
It's nice to have Jadrian Clark on your team now. Matt, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, you said you spent up the north side of the states, cold weather. You go to Barcelona, spend some time in Madrid. Does it feel a little bit better maybe being in the cold weather of Copenhagen?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm back home. This is way more like Minnesota than where I was the past 2 summers in Spain. So it's definitely kind of nice to, have a hoodie on most days. I can't really complain.
Feels right at home. Luke, you guys are currently statistically the best defense in the ELF. Can you talk a little bit about your defense and why you think you're having such success and maybe the team chemistry that it seems you guys have on that side of the ball?
I think obviously it starts with our defensive coordinator. Coach Noble is an incredible coach, so knowledgeable, but also his experience playing 8 years in the NFL as a nose guard, coming over, he's done all the stuff he's preaching, so you can really understand that he's behind us. But I think our effort is a huge thing. We fly around to the football, try and meet there every single play. But we have so much fun playing together. We have experience on all 3 levels of our defense too. So it's just kind of building the camaraderie, building the chemistry. And now we're at a point, I think, where we're really flying around.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you can see it on tape and it comes across to people watching at home. Matt, you got another question?
Yeah, you've played with great players in ELF, and with the Storm kind of coming together, you've got oh damn.
He didn't like your question, Matt. You walked out of the interview. Look at
The sunset.
So Storm coming together is basically like an amalgamation of all like some great players from all across the league. Got players from Berlin, players from Barcelona, Madrid, all coming into this one team. Is there a player in the ELF at the moment that you would like to play with potentially in the future?
Shoot, that's a good question. I think there's a lot. I think each year it's been kind of cool for me. I kind of find a new favorite teammate of mine that year, especially being on 3 teams in 3 years. You kind of form this little fraternity of dudes and overlap with all these different guys throughout the years. But I don't know, off the top of my head, one dude that I haven't played with yet. Let's see. I would say, honestly, Glenn, it was kind of short-lived, only playing 1 game with him, unfortunately. Is one I was really looking forward to playing with. But in the league, man, there's so many guys that I have respect for, and I think there's so many good players that it's hard to just name one.
Sure.
Praha has this interesting comment here. I'm throwing it up. Most teams need to really study what Nordic did in the offseason as a brand new franchise and take notes. brand new, got some of the best guys put together an elite group. This is pretty wild. So, Luke, you've now been a part of a brand new franchise 2 years in a row. Have you noticed any consistencies between the two franchises that they've done that have allowed them to have success so quickly?
It is cool, seeing how it kind of works out differently, being in Madrid, first year program, and now here with another brand new organization. I think some of the imports we bring in is a huge thing just with the experience that we have in this league. Last year it was Chris Helbig and Willie P and Jalen Embry, and now this year with Adria and Jadrian and Glenn, having guys that can really speak to what it's like to play in this league and go through the 15 weeks it takes to get all the way through the playoffs. That's a big thing to come into and show a lot of these homegrowns that haven't played a 12-game ELF season in the 15-minute quarters, kind of, what it takes.
Yeah. We got another one here from the chat that I think is kind of interesting. Who are the top leaders on that defense that gets everybody pumped up and ready to play each weekend? Now, I can't remember. I remember watching you one time against the Surge when you were playing for Barcelona. I was on the sideline and you were making tackles all over the field and you were pretty vocal. You were talking some shit, and rightfully so. Are you one of these vocal leaders, or are you more of a lead by example type guy? And who are kind of the vocal leaders on that squad?
Yeah. I would say I'm a lead by example guy initially, but once game day hits, it kind of comes out. It's just,
yeah, I saw that.
For it, I can't really contain it. We got a bunch of great leaders on our defense, man. I think Ludwig Myron, number 0, our inside backer, is one of them with tons of experience in this league. Max Parkinson, Chad Walrand, X. We got so many dudes on our defense that can really fly around and play and practice what they preach. So on game day, I think we all talk a little bit. But
yeah, I like that. Matt, you got another question?
I'm interested in what Jadrian's in here.
Jadrian's in here.
That's what I'm thinking. Ask him about his go-to night before the game meal. What are you gonna have something weird, or are you gonna have something pretty?
Not at all. Jay and I, we live pretty close to each other here in Copenhagen, but there's a burger spot just down the street from me called Burger Heighten, which I think the translation is like the cabin of burgers. And I don't know, I did it first week of the season there before Helvetic, and we took care of business, so it's kind of became my ritual now. Night before, we're at the Burger Cabin getting ready for the game.
You've always been a ritual guy, like even through college and through other teams. You've been a ritual guy.
Yeah, I have a few of them. I wouldn't say they're super crazy, but like something like the last song before you hit the field, go do my prayer pregame. That kind of stuff is important to me. So I've kept that going for a couple of years now.
Were you willing to share the last song that you listened to before you go out? I know for some guys it's private.
It's actually The Hanging Tree from the Hunger Games. If you know that.
Ooh,
my senior year of high school, I had a great game, so I've been rocking with it ever since.
Okay.
Oh, I know your eyes went up because I know you want to ask him the movie question, Nick. I know you want to ask him his favorite film.
I know. Look, at the end here, I'm going to ask you about some of your favorite movies, okay? And it's going to tell us a lot about who you are as a guy. So we were talking about how, okay, you guys, like I said earlier in the question, how we were wondering how the Nordic Storm are going to compete against some of this top level talent. We really had that Frankfurt game circled and you guys blew them out of the water. I know that, of course, maybe there was some external circumstance to that. Who knows? I'm really curious. I know a lot of people are really curious to see you guys match up against the Rhine Fire a little bit later in the season. Thoughts on this? You have this game circled?
I think when the schedule was released, that one had a little more buzz around it than some of these other ones. There's some history with some of our guys, obviously, but I mean, we're excited to play anybody. That one's obviously going to be a big one, but at this point, we're focused on the next one. But I know that they're a great team, and I can't wait to play those 2 games against them.
There you go. That's a perfect professional answer right there.
Very professional media
professional on and off the field. Matt, you got another football question before I skew us off topic and ask him about his favorite movies?
One more. So you've got All-Star vote. You've got that under your belt. You've also got a Defensive Player of the Year nomination. How much does championship mean to you? That's kind of the last thing you need to really accomplish in this league is a championship run. So how much does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean that's the reason I'm still playing football. The individual accolades are awesome. I'm blessed to get them, but winning a ring would mean everything to me over here. It's why you play is to win the championship, and I'm surrounded now with a bunch of guys who have done it. So I feel like this is the year.
Well, you guys are off to the proper start to put yourself in position for a championship win. All right, Luke. Movies. Okay. I like to ask everyone that we interview this, what are 3 to 5 of your favorite movies.
For sure, number one is Shawshank Redemption. That's my favorite movie.
Very good.
After that, I would say Batman: The Dark Knight.
Very good. Okay.
And then, honestly, this one's probably a little bit of a curveball, but the Benchwarmers, the original Benchwarmers, is probably my third favorite. So
there we go. Okay, Luke, a little bit of a curveball there. All right, Matt, shall we let him get away with 3? I think that's good. I think that.
Yeah, I've never heard of the last one. I've become a little bit of a pariah on this one, Luke, because I still haven't watched the football one that Nick told me to watch. I can't
Remember the Titans. Luke,
yeah.
Have you seen Remember the Titans? Come on.
It's the best sports movie ever made.
Yes.
See, now Coach Carter, I think he's probably the best sports film ever. I like Coach Carter, but I've never seen. I need to still see it.
Remember the
Miracle too.
Miracle, also great. Also
Never
great. I'm gonna get chills right now just talking about these. All right, that's a good list there. Maxie, we need to make a graphic of Luke Glenna's favorite movies. Put that on the ELF Instagram. All right, Luke. Thank you so much, man, for joining us on the show, dude. Congrats to all the success you've had so far in the league, to your guys' success so far this season, and to continued success for the Nordic Storm. You guys are fun to watch, man.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys having me on. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks,
all right, man. We'll see you later.
Thank you very much.
Luke Glenna, what a good guy. I like that guy a lot. He had a very good professional answer when I asked him about that game, the games down the line. You know, we're focused on the next game.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked it. It was good.
Media trained right there. All right, Matt. Let's get back in. That was a nice little interruption of our game breakdowns, but we got to get back into our next game, Matt. And I know that you are just chomping at the bits to talk about this one because the Matt Bressington Prague Lions, I think they've officially rebranded to that name, going to Hamburg, and boy, oh boy, came away with an exciting victory. Let's talk about it here. Matt, why are the Prague Lions having this success this season when they have not previously?
And there's a lot of reasons to that, Nick. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to take all the, of course, they're Matt Bressington's Prague Lions. So that's just like a public thing. You know, I'm getting promotion on the team. But of course, this comes down to multiple people, including Coach Warner, including Mr. Dish as well. And of course, with the ownership group, they've just invested into this team. It looks phenomenal. The uniforms are clean. Willie P is a revelation. Zuzelka as well. He's getting his action. They've got investment on the offensive line. This was a great game. The defense, that's what I want to talk about. This is one of the best defenses in the league. We still haven't conceded 100 points all season. You look at some of the other games, I think 2 years ago we conceded like 73 in 1 year. In one game, against the Panthers. Now we're blowing the Panthers out. This is what a team can be like when you turn it around. The stats, maybe on the offense, not 100% like, you know, the pinnacle of play, but we did enough. But it was that defense, man. You look at the names alone, let alone the actual tape watching, and Prague was just absolutely dominant, start to finish. They kind of maybe let slip a little bit with that touchdown at the end, but then they get on the offense. A great drive just drowns out all the clock, and they end up with a win. And then they lock up with multiple picks during the game, block field goals. Everything's going on. I'm so excited with this Prague Lions team. And for a minute, Nick, we're in the playoffs, and I do not think it's out of question that we could be heading towards that seed. A 7-5 year is completely not ridiculous to say that might be an option.
I know, Matt. I know you were pushing our director producer Maxie to put out a graphic. We saw the graphic of the current playoff picture. They waited to the end of the weekend to put it out. You were wanting them to put it out right after that Prague game because they were technically in the playoff picture right now. In the chat, Benji Barnes says, Matt for Prague GM. However, also a little bit of criticism of your Prague Lions from Rising Rhino. Rising Rhino had some good questions there in the Luke interview, but he says, well, the Lions are okay, but Hamburg doesn't have a competent quarterback. So that's pretty much why the Lions were able to hold on for that win. True or false?
False. Callback don't play defense. He still can't stop Willie P. No one stopped Willie P so far. He's been spectacular. He is not completely out of the question for Offensive Player of the Year. I think that he should currently be an all-star. It's kind of weird, right? He hasn't got like crazy receiver stats just because he's been scoring literally everywhere. So he would be like a flex all-star, I guess. But he's been one of the best receivers in the league. I think it was Benji who said he's one of the most athletic, and I think he's right. He's been phenomenal. I think that him coming over with Warner has been a an incredible sign. It might be like signing of the year. Like he's been unstoppable.
Well, there was one thing that they were unable to stop, and that was Kyle Kitchens. ELFpedia says blocking Kyle Kitchens with a tight end was funny to watch. At least Kyle did have one of the better defensive performances that we've seen in the ELF. Ended up with 4 sacks, 8 total TFLs, and 10 total tackles. All right. So he did put on an absolute dominant performance. And Matt, we were kind of chirping Kyle a little bit in previous shows saying, hey, he's not really up there at the top of the statistical categories when it comes to sacks as he has been previous years. And in that one game, he kind of launched himself back up into the conversation. Let's see. Confa highlight reels says, I never thought the.
Oh, am I lagging or is Nick lagging? Okay, Nick's gone. All right, let me read it out. So I never thought the Prague Lions would have the same record as the Ryan Fire. Oh, you back? I heard you a little bit. I'm going to continue. Absolutely. Ryan Fire 3-2, so the Prague Lions. Prague Lions on a 3-win streak, which is only second to the Nordic Storm, currently on 5. So one of the longest win streaks in the league, one of the best defenses. Nick, are you back with me?
I'm back with you, brother. I think.
Max
puts him back in.
Think you're all good. There you are. Happy days. Continue. I've covered the topic of Prague being in the same record.
No, that's what I want to talk about. Prague Lions having the same record as the Rhine Fire currently. But what I think is the biggest takeaway so far, and not to jump way too far ahead of ourselves and get way too excited. I know it's still, not even halfway through the season, but what the Prague Lions were able to do or have been able to do in the offseason to kind of turn around this program. They were at the bottom of the barrel for the previous seasons, and now they are winning games that a lot of people were not expecting them to win. They're looking pretty good. They're putting together some solid stuff on the football field. And Matt, I think, just what you guys were able to do in the offseason, we got to give you guys props.
Absolutely. I mean, that shows what bringing in scouts and coaches are 2 different things. Like, there's a reason why NFL teams have scouts. ELF teams should be the same. You should hire scouts that know the league. Someone like me, someone like the Galaxy do with Lawrence. I mean, Robert over in the Netherlands, he's a great scout too. Like, you get guys that know the league, can project talent, can project decline in certain players as well, can allocate imports to where the teams are needed, like maybe a coach who's just coming into the year doesn't quite know his team as well. I think that's what you need to do. And I think Prague showed that off with me. Obviously, I'm being biased, but I think there's plenty of other opportunities for scouts to make a difference. And I think that this showed the league is pushing towards that professionalism.
There we go. So the Prague Lions escape 19-14, and they move up to 3-2. There we go. And who we got? We got Jarvis in the chat. Where's Jarvis? What's Jarvis saying, Matt? Can you bring it up? My chat's all.
Called it. Yeah. He said called it. I mean,
hey, you did.
Feels all good right. To win the Jarvis Matt Bressington Bowl. That feels good.
There you go. All right. Let's move on to perhaps the most exciting game of the weekend. And that, of course, the Rhine Fire traveling to beautiful Vienna, Austria, at the Generali Arena to play the Vienna Vikings. Matt, this was a back and forth game, a lot of talent, very exciting, a little bit of sloppiness at times for Vienna, okay? And the Rhine Fire making difference on special teams, making a difference on defense. Give me your thoughts on this one.
This was like completely the opposite of the first game. First game, defensive standoff. Teams couldn't really get anything moving. Both offenses looked a little bit slow. And then this game is completely the opposite. I think Fred Armstrong deserves a lot of credit for getting the Fire back up to like a very formidable offense. They scored 33 in this game, and they barely scored 33 in the season previous to Fred Armstrong. So he deserves a lot of credit. Harlan Quofi is finally back in like the elite form that we know he can be. Chad Jeffries is not quite taken off the level that we know he can do, but I think, new coordinator, it's going to take a little bit of time to happen. It's a very complicated position. Defense just did enough, but Maris Kenzie with that forced fumble at the end just sealed it. What a performance to not only upset and give the Vienna Vikings their first loss in over 1,000 days in a regular season, their first loss since the first year they were ever in the ELF, is incredible.
Absolutely wild. And yeah, man, I mean, the Chad Jeffries thing is interesting because he only threw the ball 14 times, but he is very accurate. I mean, he completed 10 of those passes. He had 174 yards and did throw the touchdown. Harlan, obviously looking great. It's interesting because Vienna had more yards. Vienna was more efficient on third down, but Ryan had the defensive touchdown and the special teams touchdown. And like we said previously on the show, that's 2/3 of the game of football. And that ultimately played a huge difference in them coming away with the victory. Still nothing crazy from Ben Holmes, Matt. 19 for 38, basically throwing 50% completion percentage. He did have 3 touchdowns with 300 yards, but he was sacked 5 times. What are your thoughts on Ben Holmes so far this season?
Yeah, I think he's been great still. Like when your expectation is you win an MVP, anything less than that's going to look like a down season, I suppose. Like he is still among the top passers in this league. I think his offensive line wasn't fantastic in this game. They had a lot of pressure. I think that was what it mainly came down to in this game. They just couldn't handle the Fire defensive line. We know how good the Fire defensive line is. And now that Coach Kent can just fully just go for it on defense, I do not think that pressure is going to go away. It's a very, very tough defense to play against.
Interesting here, Rising Rhino, who's given some good insights here. Can the Fire give Storm trouble, or the Storm a step above the rest of the league? What do you think with those two teams?
I don't think anyone in that top like 6 is a step above anyone else, because we thought that for a second with the Surge. Surge beat the Galaxy up, and then a week later they lose against Paris. Paris have lost against Ryan, and then they beat Ryan. And then Ryan have just beat Vienna. So I don't think that anyone is a step above anyone else in that top 5 or 6 level. I think that it's any given Sunday. It's a cliche. But I think that the Storm can be beaten by the Ryan Fire. Whether or not they will be is a different story, but it's definitely a potential that they are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, we do, like we say all the time, we've got sort of this round robin of teams that beat one another and another team beats the other, and you just don't know. And it's any given Saturday, any given Sunday. But this one is just, it's top level ELF football atmosphere playing in Vienna at that arena. And I think they set a record also, attendance record for themselves, 11,000 people at Generali. So it's just a great atmosphere there. Great football game that came down to the end with 2 of our best teams. Another rematch of the championship game last year. But ultimately, the Rhine Fire pull out of the 500 record depths and are now sitting at 3-2. Vienna Vikings handed their first loss of the season. All right, Matt, let's move on to our next game. Which, there we go. Munich Ravens traveling up to Berlin to play the Thunder. And Matt, I'm gonna get frustrated talking about this one because it's the same story every single week with this Berlin Thunder team. 338 yards through the air. That's pretty good, right? Pretty solid.
It's pretty good.
But you know what they did on the ground, Matt? They had 8 rushing yards. No, I did not misspeak. 8 rushing yards. You will never have success like this as a football team if you are so one-dimensional. It upsets me, and it's just continually the story week after week. Matt, thoughts on this game?
Just to expand on those 8 rushing yards, do you want to know how many of those were accomplished by running backs?
Tell me.
0. In fact, minus 16 was by running backs.
Ooh.
It seems as if, because the offensive line and pass protection is not awful. Like, it's fine. It works. It just seems that the offensive line don't care about the run. It's so strange. There's literally pressure immediately as soon as the snap comes off with a run, but the pass is completely different. I don't really understand it. I'm not an offensive line expert with gap protection, but like, how is it so possible they have a decent pass protection, 5 players, and then it's just absolutely awful in the run protection?
Yeah, this is actually pretty wild. Although Karen Hogg says, no, that's actually Munich's rushing defense for you. Okay, I mean, there's a little bit of pushback on them not being good at run blocking. It's all credit to Munich's front 7 there. What do you think about that?
I mean, Munich do have a phenomenal front 7, but this is not something that's new to Berlin. Like, we've seen this all the way throughout the last 3 years. But Munich do have a phenomenal defensive line to be. I think they currently have maybe the 2nd or 3rd best. No, I think they've conceded 85 points. They're like one of the best defenses in the league in terms of points conceded. Great for them. I mean, they got a pick at the end of the game as well. Like, this defense is legit. But geez, it's like. It becomes a key to success every week when we talk about it on Friday. It's like, give us sign, you know what I mean? Just give us a hint that this running game can do something. Even get positive yards from a running back would be a big step.
So, Karen, it would be even more impressive if Berlin was actually, at least rushing for 50 to 100 yards every game. But, they're never good. Still, shout out to Munich's run stopping defense. Do you want to say, I've been very impressed with Russell Tabor, man. I think the youngest quarterback in the league. And the biggest thing for me is he seems poised for the most part, which I think is the most important characteristic for a quarterback to have. See some of these other quarterbacks that have a lot of talent, and we see them maybe making some big time plays, but then they get a little bit frazzled in the pocket, maybe flush out too soon, and just don't have that same level of poise consistently that I feel like we're starting to see from Russell Tabor. And of course, he's got that great big target, Malik Stanley, who had another 100+ yard game. And we do, Matt, have to give a shout out to the big man, Etoile Louis, with a rushing touchdown. We got to give a shout out to that. Big respect to the big man touchdown. What do we call Joey Lindstrom? I think the broadcaster called it a thick six.
Yes, that was the one. Yeah.
Right? We had a thick six there. But ultimately, Munich able to really run away with this one. 35-12. Munich now sitting at 4-1. Berlin dropping to 2-4. All right, Max, you move us on to our next game. Oh my goodness, Matt. Next. Next. No, guys, I love the Stuttgart Surge, but even I am a little bit not so thrilled to talk about this one. This was an 88-7 rout of the Cologne Centurions. And Matt, I'll let you maybe go on a little Cologne Centurions rant if you want. And I'll just say right now that they had 75 yards of offense to Stuttgart's 550.
Oh.
Stuttgart had 3 different guys have 2 rushing touchdowns. Riley Hennessy, he played just the first quarter. He went 5 for 5 with 2 touchdowns. And then Lars Heydrich took over and led the rest of the scoring here. This was an absolute disgusting domination that the Stuttgart Surge put on the Cologne Centurions. Matt, what are your takeaways from this? I mean, maybe we don't even have to talk about Cologne. Maybe we can talk about how good we think Stuttgart actually is.
Yeah, I think that's the angle I'm going to take as well. I don't want to pile on to Cologne because at the end of the day, players are playing, and that's all we, that's more than I'm doing for the Cologne Centurions. So who am I to criticize them for at least coming on the field? Where a lot of other players wouldn't want to do that, and they're the ones pulling that franchise up. So big respect to them in that case. My question to you, though, Nick, Riley Hennessy, only 5 passes, like you said, 2 touchdowns and 82 yards. Is this not playing the full games? Because Surge are well known for pulling their players at like halftime. Is this going to hurt him in a personal accolade sense? He doesn't have all-stars and MVPs and stuff like that. And do you think this is why? Because I know a lot of players don't say they always say they don't care about personal accolades. We just heard it from Luke Glenna. But they do. We know it. I know it. You know it. We were former players. You at a much higher level. Players do play for personal accolades. Do you think this is going to hurt Riley's legacy as an ELF quarterback? Maybe if he doesn't play these full games.
I don't think it's going to hurt his legacy. I do certainly think it does hurt his chances of getting some of those personal accolades. I mean, if he stayed in this game even for another quarter and a half, he could have thrown 7 touchdowns and 500 yards and really piled onto his stats. But those are bloated stats anyway. And I think when we take a look at statistics and league leaders on statistics, we can always decipher, all right, what's really legit and impressive and what's a little bit inflated. And so I think it ultimately wouldn't give him too much of a bump up, but certainly not having some of those statistics does hurt in the long run when coming to these conversations. Legacy-wise for Riley Hennessy, what matters is winning a championship, and that's the reason that he's back playing another season in the ELF with the Stuttgart Surge. He had an MVP caliber season almost the entire season last year, but I think he would tell you, oh, I'd throw that away in a second to have won that semifinal game and then won in the championship or won the championship in 23. And I think that this is a team that knows that. These are guys that know that. So, of course, everyone does like to pretend they don't care about it. I'm sure he cares about it a little bit, but what he probably cares about more is winning that championship. And that's what's more important. I will throw this in here from Marcus. Says, you can't talk about this game without praising Keegan McCormick-Reamer, quarterback. Bro got beat in the heat, repeatedly still got up and even smiled in the post-game interview and looking forward to the next game. And ELFpedia also says, don't blame the Cologne players. They're unexperienced, outnumbered, physically, and not ready, and they're still fighting their asses off. And that's actually what we should be highlighting is the Cologne Centurions still going out there in a sort of a lopsided environment and still playing their asses off and playing their hearts off. And ultimately, Matt, it's what football is all about. Okay, like the score at the end of the day, yeah, the Cologne Centurions are not gonna be sniffing the playoffs, right? But these guys are still out here playing ELF football with us, so we appreciate that. But the Stuttgart Surge, Jiminy Christmas, almost putting up triple digits this past weekend, and Surge rise to 4-1. Cologne stays winless at 0-5. All right, Maxie, next game. And this one, Matt, was a bit of an interesting one. The Frankfurt Galaxy, who had previously beaten the Paris Musketeers in that really exciting thriller a few weeks ago, come to Paris and drop one on the road. It's interesting. Jalen Henderson, a little bit sloppy at times, especially at the start of the game. He had those 2 picks. Granted, one of them was not his fault at all. It was a total drop. He had the fumble. Okay, but then to be able to kind of come back from that adversity and then play well and help lead his team to victory, that was impressive for me. That's one of the takeaways that I've gathered from this one. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think you summed it up. It was a weird start for Paris. Like pick first drive and then pick again and then a fumble. So Galaxy really shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they had opportunities. They had 3 turnovers in the first 3 possessions, and they scored, I think, maybe it was a field goal. Was it maybe 2 field goals? I can't remember. But either, they did not take advantage of those points whatsoever. That would have made a difference in this game. It's a 16-35 just on the ticket. It says 25. 35. So it wasn't like that was a 1-score game, but it could have been closer. I mean, they call like I said, they caused multiple turnovers, 4 on the day. If you then count the interception after those first 3 drives, and I don't want to point fingers, but McKay has not played great so far. He was inaccurate. He wasn't passing the ball particularly well in this game. He was getting sacked a lot. Granted, 5 times from an offensive line we expected to be higher level, but I think that this Galaxy team, man, we both got at it. We both got critique, we could say, from them in the preseason about they said I know ball. They used me as poster boy for someone who didn't know ball. And now all of a sudden at 3-3, who's laughing now, Nick? I think it's me.
Matt Bressington is the one laughing right now. Yeah, two losses in a row here for Frankfurt. Obviously, up against Nordic and then against Paris. I mean, this is a very hard schedule that they're playing. These are 2 very good teams. Yeah, McKay was also sacked 5 times. And here's the other thing, Matt. Frankfurt had 11 third down attempts. Okay, and these are the kind of crucial downs in football. Third down, right? Do you know how many third down attempts they converted?
Talk to me.
0. All right. You're not going to win any football games not converting on third down at all. It is not going to bring you success. That, like I said, man, with Jalen Henderson, there was the sloppiness a little bit, but then some beautiful plays. I liked his attacking on the ground, a little bit more kind of designed runs and him pulling it on the read option, not just him scrambling. So I liked that a lot. That Hail Mary to Austin Mitchell right before halftime was beautiful. The deep shot to Mahongo was absolutely beautiful. So I know that it is a little bit sloppy, but I do like a lot of the flashes that I'm seeing from Jalen Henderson. And this right here, I think it's a big sign to be able to come back from adversity and a tough start to go on for this win. Matt, is Frankfurt, are they slipping out of this this conversation here? I mean, how do they, losing these last 2 games, are they being able to kind of get their foot in again?
I'm going to go for no. Terry Wright went down in this game as well, a player they were not using enough, and I will scream that on top of a soapbox until my voice goes hoarse because he is a great receiver and they did not use him enough. I think they're 3-3. They're in a very, very difficult division. They've just lost against Paris, who is a divisional rivalry. And you look at their overall games throughout this season, and I don't want to say fraudulent because I know people are going to get annoyed if I use that term, but like they lost against Surge in a blowout. Let's be honest, the scoreline was not reflective of how that overall game went. They beat Madrid in a shootout. Fair enough, good win, nice. They get lucky against Paris. Let's be honest, they got a little bit lucky. They beat Cologne, which again, that's fine. They get blown out against Nordic by the same score. They beat Cologne. Just saying. No. And then they get blown out by Paris. I think, I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if a certain team in red come into a bit of a challenge. Maybe beat them, make them go negative. That would be, oh my God, Nick. if the Galaxy lose to for the Prague Lions, after they said I didn't know ball, with the team that I helped build, ELF Live is just going to become an absolute party fiasco. It's going to
Hey,
be
man, you're gonna have to come to that show dressed in all Prague Lions gears with some
Deal.
receipts here. All right. Coming up, big one coming up. All right. Paris Musketeers win 35-16, not 25-16, and they rise to 3-2. Frankfurt Galaxy drop to 500. All right, Matt, there we have it. There are our games for the weekend. Now is the most important time of the show, and everybody buckle up. Okay, but first let's take a look here at our graphic of all of our games. I mean, Matt, I think it's safe to say probably the most exciting and interesting game was the Vienna Vikings and Ryan Fire. But after that, well, yeah, okay, there you go. You're gonna go Prague Lions. Is that your answer?
That's my answer. Yeah. That I was stood up my seat. I was. You should see my stream still up. You can see people's reaction to me. I was fired up during that game.
Matt Bressington fired up. All right, let's take actually a look at our current playoff picture. And Matt, I'm so sorry that they waited until the end of the weekend to put this up together here. But right now we've got the current playoff picture. And if the season were to end today, you'd have the Stuttgart Surge playing the Paris Musketeers. And then you'd have the Raiders Tirol playing the Munich Ravens, with the Nordic Storm and the Vienna Vikings with the bye. It's interesting. 2 non-German teams with the bye, and 2 also non-German teams in the first round there. That's primarily non-German teams. There's been a big critique a lot of people have, but the playoff picture right here feels very balanced. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, Ravens, Raiders, you rematch in the playoff. I'm down for that. That could be a trilogy when they play each other later in the year. I mean, Surge versus Paris, I'm down. Like, all these matchups are phenomenal. I think it could line us up for some nice championship games too. But notably, no Ryan Fire as of now, which is very interesting. And I think no Madrid either, which is another team that could be vying for it. So I think we're going to see a lot of shuffling of this during the season.
Oh, I agree. I think every single week this is going to look different, and we're going to be waiting down to the final week to see what the playoff picture actually ends up as, because there's 8 or 9 teams that could really be in that conversation. You know what? That's just fun for us, Matt. A lot of good football to be had and a lot of competition that still needs to shake out. So with that being said, it is now time for the most important part of the show. You guys lock in right now in the chat, whichever platform you are watching on, and help participate, because we are going to nominate our choices for Citizen MVP of the week. All right, and we've prepared a few guys right here, and if there's anybody in the chat that we did not mention, hammer their name in there, all right, and talk to us. You guys have a lot of sway and influence in this portion of the show. Let's start off with Vikings wide receiver Reese Horn, with 9 receptions for 159 yards and 3 touchdowns in their loss. But Reese Horn keeping them in that game. Ben Holmes' favorite target is in the conversation this week.
Absolutely phenomenal game for him. Another phenomenal, potentially nearly record-breaking week. Mr. Kyle Kitchens, 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 8 impact in the pass and the run in the red sleeves. Looks phenomenal. Great game for Mr. Kyle Kitchens.
Let's move to stick with the defensive side of the ball, Matt. I like this back-to-back defensive players. Lautaro Frecha, who had 9 tackles, 2 breakups, and 2 picks in the big win against the Hamburg Sea Devils. There we go, Prague Lions. All right, who we got next, Matt?
One of our favorite new quarterbacks, Mr. Russell Tabor, with a very clean, efficient 18 for 25, 3 touchdowns, 265 yards total. Another very signature performance by potentially one of the best new players in the league.
Then we've got Andrea Botello Moreno, the veteran tight end, who had 8 catches, 111 yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. This man went off this past week. And finally, Matt, who do we have? The man throwing him the ball.
Mr. Jadrian Clark, good friend of mine. Look at that picture. Great picture. 30 out of 44, 6 touchdowns, 370. His signature performance, and only 1 pick, but he did go over 20. Me and Jarvis made the bet, but he did go over 20 through that pick. So another great game from him.
Okay, so there we have it. These are the guys that we've got in conversation. Marcus says entire Surge D for MVP. They did put on a good performance there. First Down Mag says, love that you're hyping this up, Nick, but this has to be Kyle Kitchens. And you know what? I'm kind of with you. I think that's going to be who I'm pushing to nominate, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. But you know how many people message me saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe you gave the award to a player that lost the game when we gave it to Aaron Cruikshank." So some people are very much not happy that we give it to losing players. I feel like I could be swayed. I feel like I could use the chat in this one generally because Reese Horn had a great game, but again, lost. Kyle Kitchens lost. Latoro did a great job. He could definitely be in it. Tabor played against a shaky Berlin. I'm thinking maybe Botello Moreno for 4 touchdowns. Don't see that very often. Or I'm thinking Frencha. I think that would be...
the VLFpedia says has the biggest impact of those guys seen. Underdog, important picks. He's the only legal vote option.
He was phenomenal. Those screens too. He blew up those screens all game. That was a big part. I'm leaning Latoro. I am.
I could be swayed to go. I could be swayed to move from Kyle, and Kyle's going to hate us for this, but I do think Freck's performance might have had more final impact in the game. I mean, obviously they came away with the victory.
They did.
Should we do that, Matt? Are we swaying? Should we go 1 offense, 1 defense? I kind of feel like
4 touchdowns. That is rather outstanding, and 111 yards. And he even had the picture where he's holding up his broken fingers with on the graphic. So I mean, he's tough. No one can doubt that. Best tight end in the ELF history too. So I'm thinking.
First down Mag though says, mate, 80% of D lines won't have 4 sacks the whole season. He had them in 1 game.
That's true, but
Matt, I'm pulling back and forth here. These guys are influencing the hell out of me. 4th down Mag. Glenn says, I love Kyle, but they lost. King Glenn. That is true.
That's true. It's between the 3 of them. I feel like we ask for 3 too much, though, don't we? Quite often.
I don't think that we're in a position right now to ask for 3. I don't think we're in the position. I think we got to make it.
He was great in the run game too. I really do feel bad about not giving it to Kyle. But like,
what if we nominate 2 defensive players again?
I mean, we could if you want to leave out the guy that got 4 touchdowns receiving and 111 yards in a W. Like
guys in the chat, nobody in the chat's hitting Botello though.
That's true. Like
except for Glenn, he's just hitting his teammate.
That's true. Fencher got 2 picks, including the pick that sealed the game-winning pick. So that's a big one for me. I think he also might have got a forced fumble, if I'm not mistaken. But like, he was so impactful. I think he would be my favorite, to be honest, just because it was, sometimes you got to think with your heart and not your head. And this is definitely one of them, I think, for me.
If we're going just 1 defense, I'm going to go Freca also. I'm sorry, Kyle.
Oh, no, I want to go Freck. He's my proud line. He's got to be mine, surely.
We gotta. Oh shit! So then if we don't nominate Kyle, it's on me.
Yes, absolutely. You can be the villain. You're the host of this show. I'm the analyst.
Chat spam. Kyle or Adria.
Yeah.
Spam it right now, guys. You guys are picking. Chat, you're picking. Okay,
we're gonna give you Latoro. I'm locked in with Latoro.
Okay, Latoro's 1, and we're gonna give you 30 seconds right now to spam it, and we're gonna actually count these. Okay, starting now. 30 seconds, Matt. Maxie, if you could throw on the Jeopardy music. Dun 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 dun. Okay.
See, there we are. French historical win.
Hanako Simon says Adria. We got Kyle. 2 for Adria, 1 for Kyle. 3 for Adria, 1 for Kyle. 2 for Kyle, 3 for Adria. Okay, 2, 3. Another for Adria. That's 4 Adria. to 2. 50% of receptions were touchdowns. Adria, another one. Funky Pat, you're not helping me at all. You said Kyle or Adria. What the hell?
One each.
Adria, 6 for Adria.
Right, looks like Adria's going to take it.
Hey, Adria again. One-way Jay, his vote counts for 3.
Yeah.
Him and Glenn each.
Marcus as well. Adria, there's Moreno. Yeah.
All right, chat. Z, this is why you got to stick around for this part of the show because you guys pick the MVPs a lot of the times. All right, the nominees. Okay, so we're going Freca and Adria for our nominees. Kyle Kitchens. Not my fault, brother. So if you see me, don't be mad. It's the chat's fault. All right? Wash my hands of this. Although I'm not mad about the Adria pick.
No,
not mad. All right, so there we have it. Freca and Adria will be nominated. You guys know the drill. You go on the ELF Instagram story in the next 24 hours and you vote and you vote and you vote. And then we will have our Citizen MVP of the week. All right? So, Matt, there we have it. Another great weekend of ELF football. Another fun Monday show presented by Euronics, as always. Matt, you got any parting words for the lovely people?
Oh, I mean, probably next week's games. I'm excited for them. I think there's a lot of exciting ones. So I'm going to just I'm just going to maybe lay some groundwork if the Galaxy lose to the Lions.
All right.
You're in a spectacular mood.
There we go. We'll have it. Stick around for the next shows coming up, everybody. Enjoy the week, and the show will be back Friday with more ELF football. See you next time.